Happy Friday, Jay Hill. How are you? Hey, Kev. Hello, Keith. Happy Friday. Whew. Just waiting on everybody else to come in. Definitely tap the screen so that they will. What is everybody doing this Friday? Well, it's well deserved. You've been studying, so it's well deserved. Well deserved, yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Carla. I really believe, hey, big bro, I really believe that this week has been a week for everybody. Hey, Netta, I think it has just been a week for everybody, going through what they're going through, working through what they're working through, you know. It tends to be that way in the springtime because the beginning of the year has passed and now you're staying focused on whatever it is you've carved out for yourself and working your blueprint. And then, of course, along the way, there's other things that come up. So life is lifing. I know if I don't go to a gas station anytime soon, it'll be okay. It'll be okay with me because, yeah. It's insane. Hello, Nicole. Hey, Shelby. Um, Next Thursday, everyone, on the 14th at 7:30 Eastern Time. They are dropping the schedule. So we'll get to see what that schedule is going to look like. And as it appears, no, I didn't. Well, he has taken over the internet. This is his internet right now. So there's that. Um, I'm excited about that. I had an opportunity to look at some of the footage coming out of Cleveland with the rookies. They are excited. The energy is totally different. I can't say that enough. The energy is totally different than it was last year. Um, I'm very happy that these young men, straight across the board, this draft class did not have to get caught in the whirlwind of what happened last year. Because last year, what happened to Shador, it didn't just happen to Shador. It happened to everybody that was in that draft class. Because now all of the attention and focus was on a lot of stuff that had absolutely nothing to do with the incoming rookies or football. It was a lot of personal vendettas and vengeance conversation, you know. And it felt very lagging, as if it was a shackle on everybody's ankle because of all of the stuff that they were talking about and how they were talking about it. I agree with you, Nicole. Everyone is extremely excited about playing with Shador. Now, I know the people in Cleveland, that Cleveland media, they're very strange. They come up with something new every day. They keep pushing the goalpost every day. And I'm going to say this along with correlating it with what's happening in Tennessee and what's happening in Louisiana in terms of the voting and stuff. And if there's anybody in here right now that's not black, do not take this as anti-white or whatever you are, but I'm talking to black people right now in this instance, okay? Um, it is of my opinion that this is a season of reckoning and it is a harvest and a return for centuries of hard work and contribution to this country. Whether we are talking about football, we're talking in the boardroom, if we are talking education. There are so many facets to the American life and lifestyle that has been contributed by our ancestors, our parents, and us included. And there have been injustices, misappropriation, exclusion, intentional and purposeful means to lock us out of the reaping of the benefits of what we have done to build this country in every facet of American life. And what you are watching unfold in front of you, thank you, are the retribution and what comes with that. Because as our ancestors have continuously said and we've repeated, people should be very glad that we are not moving in revenge. People should be very glad that we are not moving in revenge. But what we cannot control is the order and the law of the universe. If you set something out there, it is now in motion and it is going to make its circular return. Whatever you put out there, if it's good, your return is going to be good. If it's not, well, that's between you and karma. That part right there. And I say that to say this. The continuous attacks on Shedeur Sanders and his family, we clearly see it has absolutely, thank you, Nicole, has nothing to do with football. It has nothing to do with football. It disturbs certain entities in this country that Black people find success. Not only do they find success, they find the ability to stand on their own and to be productive, to be empowering, and be self-sustained. As long as we are illiterate, in poverty, and requiring assistance, they are all in. The minute that we cut off the cord and we do not require their approval or their assistance, it is a problem. Nothing has come out of the Sanders family that requires anyone to question the validity of their character or what it is that they intend to do. Those people give away far more than they ever ask for and take. But it disturbs you because a member of that family, a Black man in that family, decided, I am going to change the course and the trajectory of the family I belong to. And not only am I going to change the trajectory of the family that I belong to, any and everyone that we come in contact with, as long as they come and are willing to believe, be positive, and contribute, then I am willing to assist them too. Now, that same Black man made some personal choices that were not good, and it cost him personally. Now we're talking about Shedeur Sanders' character based off of comments made by his brother or his dad. And let's be very clear, Prime ain't said anything about Cleveland. He just told you he wasn't never going to be a football coach in the NFL after he watched what they did to his son. There was not a lie told there. He's been the one reassuring everybody along the way, oh, he's going to play. And not saying that because of his input in that. He's saying that because that's what it is. So there is that. And what I will say as far as what's going on in Tennessee, And in Louisiana, don't get upset. Let them do it. Sometimes you have to give people what they ask for. Now, when it was our grandparents and our great grandparents, they put a lot on the line for us to have the ability to vote. But with that vote came our work, came our contributions. They love our rhythm and hate our blues. You don't want us to play on your playground anymore? Fine. You know how well we flourished when we wasn't fooling with them? When we were in our own communities? When we had our own stuff? See, America wants segregation. And let's be very clear, we don't mind it. It's just our versions of segregation are very different. See, when we say segregation, we say, okay, cool, leave us alone. We'll stay over here and do what we doing with ours, and we'll be just fine. But the segregation that they're talking about is where not only are we separate, but they continue to keep their foot on our necks, controlling our financial, our academic, and our social elevation. That's not segregation. That's servitude. We didn't sign up for that, nor are we going to go back to that. But if you want to hold your little political parties and you want to go all out your way to change it, let them have it. Let them have it. Because I have lived long enough in this country to see the only time they get real busy about wanting to take something or control something is because there's something good in it. But sometimes you have to take the power out of things for people to understand. You don't want our vote. You don't want our money. You don't want our contributions. You don't want us working in your firms. None to worry. We can establish our own. We can open our own banks. We can open our own schools. We can open our own hospitals. We have been able to do all of those things all this time. We just have been so busy trying to be equal. We're trying to be equal with people who cannot compete because they cannot compare with us. Why are we chasing and trying to convince people who can't do what you can do to let us play with them? Let them have their mediocrity. You know why strawberries and bananas are so expensive? Because remember when they were screaming about the brown members of society here? They don't need to be here. And they got real busy and decided to make them leave or force them out of here. Well, you got what you asked for. Now you're paying for strawberries that's high as giraffe coochie. But that's what you asked for. Sometimes you have to just give it to them. And I know that feels like we might be rolling back. No, we ain't rolling back nothing. Have your space. You wanna control the vote? Because looking at what you're doing, you're not really in control. The Middle East has you by your chonies. Okay? You ain't running nothing but your mouth. Let them have it. Nobody in the world has any issue with black people in this country except the white people who are born to the people who created this madness. Now that's as real as I can give it to you. We can go anywhere in the world and we are greeted with respect and admiration. Our contributions have superseded the borders of this country. And the minute that all several million of us realize the power has always been in our hands? Went over there to the Middle East and pissed them people off, and the very first thing that came out of them people's mouths is they don't have no issue with us. Said it loud and clear. Said it loud and clear. There is a stamp of Malcolm X over there. Let them people do what they do. As you were, continue with your line dances, your skin moisturization, and getting some more degrees. Let them people do what they want to do. Because the only reason why they're making a big deal out of it is because they think we have to have it. Because the minute you take the power out of something, it deflates the need the other person is seeking it for. So that is that. And I mean that even in reference to what's happening in Cleveland. These racially biased people who are just angry and just being angry with the world for no reason. Those rookies were out there tearing up that field today. And y'all are talking about something that happened a year ago. You're not even focused on your team right now. That's why I said, everybody that we support that's content creators, get on the horn and send some emails. Get on some plane, trains, and automobiles and go out there to Cleveland. Go on and pick up them coins. Because the Cleveland media, they ain't trying to do nothing. They're not trying to do nothing. Tayland, KC, Parsons, Boston, they showed up and got funnel too. I was so impressed with what I saw today. I was like, oh, we in good hands. Oh, we in good hands. We are in damn good hands. It ain't no problems going on. And it was the healthy, happy kind of competition, you know? You could tell everybody is excited and hyped about practicing and playing. Yeah. So them folks in Cleveland, y'all sitting up there today talking about Deion Sanders and Shador Sanders. Meanwhile, they in the rafters in Alabama cheering on the baby of the bunch because she walking across the stage. Imagine them even being concerned with what y'all talking about. They ain't giving y'all no thought. And I can tell you what Shador is going to do. He going to spend some time with his family, celebrate his baby sister, and then he getting on the next thing smoking, and he coming back, and the next thing you going to see is him on the sideline watching the rookies, talking to the rookies. Because he's locked in. He doesn't hear you. What you say doesn't matter. He told you to your face. You don't get to dictate who he is. I know that pissed you off. But it's the truth. And that is something that I would say to my community and my people. Make that your mantra. Make that your mantra. These people don't get to dictate who we are. The audacity. The idea that I would ever bow down, cower, beg, or ask any of them for anything. Do you know who my family is? My community? You safely stop your car at a corner because of somebody in my community. Textiles are processed because of somebody in my community. your congested heart failure, your heart attacks, your bad heart murmurs. Yeah, it was a black man that made that happen so they could go in there and open you up and save your life. The cell phone, refrigerated trucks. I mean, the list could go on. The list could go on. And what did y'all make? Hell on earth. So you want to take back the map of voting? Because that's all you got to hold on to. Because you can have your vote. But when you get that vote, what you gonna do when we take all of our stuff with us and go somewhere else? That part, Nicole. Shelby, I cannot with you. I cannot. I cannot with you. So last night I did have a Zoom call with not just the nurses. There were some people who were just fans of Michael Jackson. And we did go over that autopsy report. And I have to tell y'all, per usual, they lie like rugs. There were so many things that were wrong. There were so many things that were not included. Hey, lady. There were so many things that explain why this narrative is the way that it is. So I decided to put something together because nobody likes to be talked at, and a lot of the information is a lot to take in. So I thought I would be kind of creative with how I shared some of the things I knew already, but just from the perspective of how this narrative about Michael Jackson, from the allegations to him being addicted to pain medication, it doesn't do justice by a person to say things or tell things about them, hey Carolyn, and you don't give the context or the backstory of what's included in that. So I said, and I told everyone last night that I would, because it was just, that post is like 120,000 views or something. It was too many comments in there for me to go back and try to do. So I said I would go live and I would share the information. And well, Shelby, I'm about to share with you, and then everyone can make their assessment from there. So here we go. Dear Michael, and to every fan, every supporter, every person still searching for truth, this is written with intention, with care, and with the humility that should have been present while you were still here. Michael, we owe you more than remembrance. We owe you an apology, not just for what was said, but for what was never fully explained, for the context that was missing, for the backstory that was ignored, for the truth that lived beneath the headlines, but was never given the same volume. You were not simply a performer. You were a human being navigating a body that was under constant internal strain. You lived with both discoid lupus and systemic lupus, conditions that did not just affect your appearance, but your lungs, your joints, your skin, your ability to heal, and your daily experience of pain. That matters. Because when the world labeled you, it did so without that context. You were called an addict, yet what was overlooked is that patients living with systemic lupus often require consistent pain management as part of their medical care. Chronic Chronic inflammation, joint damage, and impaired healing are not occasional, they are constant. There is a difference between survival and escape. That difference was not honored in your story. You were performing at the highest level imaginable, rehearsing for hours, carrying global expectations, and still showing up as present, hands on, as a father in your children's lives. That reality alone challenges the simplified narrative that was presented to the public. Even the details of your personal life were stripped of context. Your bedroom was not a singular space, but a two-story, two-bedroom, three-bath penthouse within your very home. Now, that may seem small, but it represents a larger truth. Your life was often reduced, simplified, and misunderstood. And while so much focus was placed on speculation, far less was given to what you consistently did for others. You gave continuously, intentionally, and without condition. You supported more than 39 charities, earning recognition for doing so. Your contributions, both financial and personal, reached an estimated $300 to $500 million over your lifetime. That is not an occasional generosity. That is a sustained commitment to humanity. You founded the Heal the World Foundation, creating pathways for children to receive medical care and support in the face of poverty, hunger, and crisis. You personally funded the airlift of humanitarian supplies into war-torn Sarajevo. You co-wrote We Are the World, contributing to global famine relief through USA for Africa. You gave your entire earnings from the Victory Tour, millions of dollars, to organizations including the United Negro College Fund, the T.J. Martell Foundation, and Camp Good Times. You established the Michael Jackson Scholarship Fund to support minority students at historically Black colleges and universities. You donated to preserve the Motown Museum, honoring the legacy of Black music and culture. You stood with Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation and supported HIV/AIDS awareness at a time when many turned away. You befriended Ryan White, advocated for him, and used your voice to push for greater awareness and research funding. You gave to organizations like the American Cancer Society, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, the Sickle Cell Research Foundation, UNICEF, the Boys and Girls Club of America, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Children's Defense Fund, the NAACP, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, the Red Cross, UNESCO, and so many others. You donated to 9/11 relief efforts. You supported Make-A-Wish children, not just financially, but personally, opening your home, your time, and your heart. Neverland was not what it was often portrayed to be. It was intentionally designed as a sanctuary, a place where children, especially those who were sick or underserved, could experience joy, safety, and normalcy. You modified rides for accessibility, ensured medical accommodations were available, and personally interacted with the children who visited. You were not removed from humanity, you were deeply invested in it. And yet, so much of this was overshadowed. The narrative that followed you often removed the context of your health, minimized your humanitarian work, and amplified speculation over substance. Allegations were presented without full background, without nuance, and without acknowledgement of the broader picture of who you were and what you were enduring. Michael, you were carrying more than the world chose to see. You were fighting a physical battle within your own body. You were navigating a public battle shaped by perception, and you were doing it while continuing to give to others in ways that remain unmatched. To your fans, this is not about rewriting history. It is about completing it. It is about acknowledging that what we were given was incomplete, that critical pieces, your health, your pain, your humanitarian impact were not given the same attention as speculation and narrative. It is about recognizing that a person can be strong and suffering, brilliant and burdened, giving while in need of understanding. And it is about finally saying, and it is about finally saying with clarity, he deserved context. He deserved compassion. He deserved truth. Michael, wherever peace has found you, may it be full, uninterrupted, and free from the weight you carried here. And to those still seeking answers, let them be rooted in understanding. Let them be guided by compassion. Let them include the full story, because that is what should have been there all along. With respect, with accountability, and with care, those of us who choose to hear the truth. So that's what we found, guys. Michael was not a drug addict. Narratives are important to all of us. Narratives are important. It matters the context on which you say things. In that entire autopsy report, they never mentioned he had lupus. Not one time. And I don't think it's fair for Conrad Murray to be the only physician that carries burden in that. Because Dr. Klein and Dr. Metzger is the rheumatologist. I saw that. Metzger is the rheumatologist and Klein was the dermatologist. And both of these doctors were taking care of him ever since his diagnosis of vitiligo and lupus. And even when they testified as if Michael was singularly addicted to pain medication. They didn't say they were also treating him for lupus. They didn't say, as a result of lupus, when he broke his nose, that didn't heal properly, so that's why he had to go back and get it done again. They didn't say that after several surgeries in his scalp, as a result of those burns, it wasn't healing properly. The nerves in his scalp were exposed. His body wasn't healing properly because of the lupus. And that's the other thing. Because of his rigorous rehearsals and touring, it exacerbated it. He had a chronic photosensitivity, which is why you saw him clothed all the time. He wore hats, he used umbrellas, and he wore glasses because his melanin in his skin was gone. But they didn't say that. No, you called him Wacko Jacko. You said he was eclectic and eccentric. You gave it to the world like he was just inviting kids over to the house. You didn't say that in those group of children, a large number of them were also his nieces and nephews, that he was committed to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and that Neverland was a working zoo and amusement park designed specifically for children, all children, disabled or not. You didn't tell the world that part. You told the world that he had children in his bedroom, but you didn't tell them what was the architectural build of that room, because his room was literally somebody's whole house. There were separate bedrooms in the room that the children were in. You also didn't tell that that room was not only his bedroom, but it was a safe room with coded map under a rug. So in the event something happened, he'd be able to lock himself from the inside and be safe to whatever was going on outside. You didn't tell that. You didn't tell that. You didn't tell that Wade Robeson was not only one of the people that was making allegations toward him, he dated Jackie's daughter Brandy for almost 9 years. You didn't tell that he was trying to audition for Michael, the Broadway show, nor that the same person that made allegations against Michael Jackson had the nerve to be a backup dancer to Janet when she did the tribute to him when he just recently passed. You didn't tell about that. You didn't tell about that. I told y'all I was a cold piece when I used to do journalism. There ain't much I can't get my hands on. Yeah, you didn't tell all of that. And as far as the propofol goes, you lied when you said he was administering it himself. It is documented in the autopsy reports. There's no way he could have done that. And when he was overseas touring in Europe, there were doctors that gave it to him. But those doctors had him in medical settings where he was monitored. You left that part out. You left that part out. Mm. The scarring and the bruising on his body that people tried to say was because of, all of the drugs. Well, no. When you have systemic lupus, bruising and scarring happens to you. Now, that's not to say he wasn't getting medication. And just as I suspected, as rigorous as his schedule is and how he was performing and touring, there was no way he could be under the influence of all the drugs you all said he was. And when we went through that autopsy report, what you didn't tell is, yeah, it was a lot of drugs, but did you tell how much was in the bottle, when the date, when were the drugs issued, and how much was left in those bottles? Because a lot of that stuff he wasn't even taking. That ain't something that was made up. When they went through there and collected everything, there's the date it was given, there's how much was in there when they gave it to him, and then how many were left in the bottle. And then you look at how many times was he supposed to be taking it. He wasn't taking it. Just like I said, it would be no way he would have been able to perform. So when I say that there's something afoot, there's something afoot. There were a whole lot of things that were done wrong. A whole lot of things that were done wrong. And the answers that came after that autopsy report, they didn't match. They didn't match medically. They didn't match chronologically. And when Michael Jackson's brother said that there's still some truth that has to come out, that's not somebody just speculating. I can tell you, we sat on that Zoom call 2.5 hours and picked that autopsy report apart. And from the minute we started looking at it, stuff just jumped off the page that was wrong. Michael's troubles started after the completion of Off the Wall. He should have swept the Grammys with Off the Wall, but he didn't. He got one. He got one award. And just like somebody else we know, he left out of that award show and got in that car and immediately started working on Thriller. It was while he was working on Thriller, and then Thriller was released, is when he obtained ATV's catalog. Now, nobody might have been, they was mad about that, but what was really making them mad is Michael Jackson was selling Thriller album 1 million copies a week before the internet, before streams. 1 million. He has the biggest selling album of all time. He now has control of the music industry because the catalog he owns. Now he's saying, I want to be an actor too when I finish this music thing. What if we buy Universal Studios? What do we do? It was at that point that they were like, wait a minute. You're doing the most. Here's some more context for you. After he did Thriller, then did Bad, he was like, okay, it's time to start cutting out the middleman. I need to launch my own record company. So then MJJ Records came about. But because of his contractual obligation to Sony, he still owed them some albums. It wouldn't be until Blood on the Dance Floor that he would actually be able to distribute his music through his own record label. So guess what year the allegations start? Oh, don't worry, I'll tell you. 1993. First round of allegations. Well, that didn't go the way they wanted it to go. Because the young man who made those allegations, he didn't want to show up to court. And they couldn't find anything without him. So they had to let that go. So then he goes on and he makes Dangerous. But they still hiding the jaws because he got his hands on that catalog. Tommy Mottola no longer has that power. Because you the CEO, but Michael Jackson has all the power because he's got all the gold. Yeah, that's what people don't understand is him owning ATV. He literally owned Sony. So now they got to figure out a way. He got to go. He got to go. Thriller is still, even though he's made Bad, he's done Dangerous, Thriller is still selling off the chain. Thriller ain't stopped selling yet. He's still selling Thriller. And even when he did bad and he did dangerous, those were not the numbers that he did with Thriller, but 10 million, 20 million, 30 million records. Nobody else was doing that on follow-up albums, but he was. So then comes Invincible. Now, they couldn't get it with allegations. He's had the issue with the burns. Now everybody is thinking that he's playing with his nose because he wants to be white, and because of what we learned about his dad. Still ain't nobody talking about the lupus, because when he broke his nose, it didn't heal properly as a result of the lupus, so he had to get it reconstructed. The person that did the reconstruction didn't do it properly, so he had to get it done again. But they don't tell you that. At the same time, the vitiligo is ravishing his body. It's not just speckles and spots right here. He's now got the reverse raccoon. It's all on his chest. It's on his feet, his hands. The one particular hand is why he's wearing the glove. Yeah, but ain't nobody talking about that until he has the interview with Oprah. And I don't like her anymore. He has the interview with Oprah in 93 and he tells everybody about the vitiligo, but he doesn't say anything about the lupus. Because of course, if he says anything about the lupus, then he becomes a liability to the insurance companies who are supporting and underwriting the tours that he's on. So he keeps it to himself. Now, what it looks like to everybody is he's addicted to pain pills. They even have an intervention. Elizabeth Taylor and 2 other people that are really close to him, they have an intervention because they think he's just addicted to pain pills. Why do you have these pills? Nobody is talking about the lupus. And what's ironic is Elizabeth Taylor had lupus too. But he never discussed it. So he goes to rehab. Everyone convinces him to go. So riddle me this, Batman. If you have a chronic disease that pain is part of it all the time, what is going to rehab going to do if part of your therapy are pain medications? And why isn't your rheumatologist and your dermatologist advocating for you? My opinion is, at that point, everybody had a piece of the pie. I really believe that Tommy Mottola and whoever else was in on this with them began to grease palms. They had already set in motion what they were going to do. Tommy wanted to get his hands back on that catalog. He didn't give a damn what he had to do it. But as time continued to go on, it wasn't just the catalog at that point. Because in 93, Michael Jackson wrote a song called Palestine Don't Cry. Well, wow. When he wrote that, the record label was like, no, you can't release that. You can't put that on any album. Now, they were already under promoting and really not pushing Invincible. And Michael noticed it and started making a big stink about it. And then him and Tommy Mottola went to war. And Michael got vocal and flat out called him a racist and a devil. and said he didn't trust Bashir. He just started dropping names and telling things and said there was more stuff to tell. And no sooner than that happened, then came the onslaught of allegations. So the first thing you do is you assassinate a person's public persona and reputation. Nothing will make you move away from somebody and to find out they're a PDF. And to know you had access to children as much as you did. So that was the first thing they did. Then the next thing is you create a situation that grabs them by their finances. Oh, this time these allegations ain't gonna just go away. You ain't gonna be able to settle. It's gonna cost you. You're gonna have to get you a team of good attorneys. And he did. And it did cost him. And he did have to sell half of the catalog. But Michael was also very smart. Because while all of this was going on, instead of selling the rest of it, he took out loans against it. So he was literally taking out a loan against himself. And he ensured that all of his music was a separate entity from the catalog so that his music would always be preserved and no one could get their hands on it. He's just pissing these people off as he goes along, let me tell you. Let me tell you. So he gets acquitted. They didn't have that on their bingo card. And let me say this for people who are like, the case got dismissed. No, the case didn't get dismissed. He got acquitted. See, when a case gets dismissed, the case is dismissed because somebody didn't show up to court or they didn't put the information they presented. It wasn't beyond a shadow of a doubt. Mm-mm. When you get acquitted means under absolutely no shadow of a doubt. There was no evidence. There is no way in hell these things that were brought against you are true. They are false. You are free to go. He was acquitted of all 14 charges. They're madder than hot fish grease on a Friday night at a fish fry. That's not what was supposed to happen. So he walks out of there. And now we're going to do This Is It. Well, we know how he feels about touring. And when he was saying that touring is hell, is hell for me, we didn't know what he was talking about. He's talking about the lupus. The lupus creates the insomnia. The insomnia comes from the chronic pain and his body system not being able to rest. But he was excited about doing it because now he was going to be from up under Sony and Tommy Mottola's hand. All of this was done and over. And he was going to get started on This Is It. Because if you see him, his very first appearance following the trial is when he went and performed We Are the World with those children. Michael looked so healthy and happy. He was sharp as fresh broken glass. So when it came time for this tour, he was excited. He went and got with one of his old choreographers, Kenny Ortega. They had a team over in London that was getting the accommodations together for him so that it would be okay for him and his children. And then this yarn appears out of nowhere, hired by AEG. And just by everything that he did, it was very clear that unaliving MJ was what it was. So you can go online and you can get a copy of the autopsy report. You can also get a copy of Conrad Murray's interview with the detectives. And you can get a copy of the transcript from the trial. What I'm telling you, it's all in there. And even when you go look at the pictures that they took of Michael's bedroom that was allegedly all this stuff was in there, Michael Jackson was a perfectionist in all things. How is it every room in that house is impeccable and clean, and then you get to his room and it looks like an episode of Hoarders? It looked very staged. Medically, there were things in places we would never put them. We never line up oxygen in a person's room. There's usually a special place you keep oxygen because it's flammable. You don't have it near heaters and all that. You would not just have a whole, and the thing of it is that Michael's bedroom is a 2-story apartment. So he's got a pool table, a whole room. It's also a safe room for him. So if that were the case, they would have had a place for the oxygen. So I compiled that and shared it with everyone because I've always said this: the same way that you are loud with the disrespect, you be equally as loud with the atonement. And people get on this internet and they repeat things that are false. They don't know the accuracy of the things that they are sharing. So if they went to great lengths to smear his name and to create that narrative, then telling the truth should be equally loud. I know a lot of people didn't know he had lupus. A lot of people don't understand how vitiligo works. It's very different on some people. Some people get a few spots. Some people get blotches. And then some people, the vitiligo is very aggressive. and it begins to dissipate the melanin in their skin very quickly. Hey, Candace. Now, he did have creams that blended the blotches. For everybody that wants to say he was bleaching his skin. So, yes. It is believed that lupus is started as a result of stress. Your fight or flight, your sympathetic system is turned on. So your body is trying to defend itself from itself. And I could see how he would get it, because for Michael, performing was a dual-edged sword for him. Performing well meant a good thing, but if you didn't perform well, you were punished. And this happened to him as a little boy. So his frame of thinking is, I have to do really, really well. And that thought process just carried out. But again, no one was talking about that. And if it's not perfect, then the fear of what comes with that is totally different than the rest of how we think. See, success and fear are one thing for Michael, whereas it's two for other people. But that's because of how he was being raised and trained. You do well so your family will succeed, and if you don't, then there's going to be a punishment. So there was absolutely no such thing as not being perfect. Living under that type of duress and stress, I would think your body might start to respond. And then he had no outlet. Most children, they get to go outside and play. They get to release all of that. He did not get to do that. He didn't get to go outside and play. He didn't get to act silly. He didn't get to be his age. He got to perform. He was 19. He was 19, 20. And then he was like 22, 23 when they diagnosed him with vitiligo. Because by that time it was spotty. But his progressed really, really fast. And I think it was as a result of the rigorous performance and rehearsal schedule he had. Because once Thriller took off, he was on tour. Then, after Off the Wall, his dad made him go on tour and do a record with his brothers. That was Triumph. Then, when he did Thriller, his dad made him do Victory. So he literally had been touring for 2 decades. So internally, his body is like, No, he didn't move out of that house until they came back from the victory tour. At that point, he was really pissed with his dad. It was after the accident that he was like, I'm out. And that's the thing. His head caught on fire. He still did the victory tour. Hey, Chicky. He still did the victory tour. Now, I'm going to tell you something. All of the people that, played a hand in all of this, they're all relative, you know? Wade Robinson, he was dating Jackie's daughter, Brandy, for almost 10 years. Trying to get into shows. Debbie Rowe, the woman that had Prince in Paris, she is the nurse that was working in Dr. Klein's office, his dermatologist. I mean, everybody is connected. She was the nurse in Dr. Klein's office. AEG, the promoter and underwriter of the This Is It tour, is connected to Sony. Thank you, Carla. Now, the one person that wasn't there, Bill Bray, had already passed away. I have no idea, but I just she was on an interview one time and she was talking and she said that she just wanted to gift. She knew Michael wanted kids because that was one of the reasons him and Lisa Marie got a divorce, because she didn't want to. He wanted to have children. And let me say this for folks who might still be holding on to this delusional belief that Michael was not shaboinking and dating women. Now I know that two-story apartment in the house was a safe house too, but it also had some privileges with it. It was a means for him to conduct his own social life without people having access or seeing and knowing what he was doing. Y'all might want to go back and listen to those lyrics of his songs. Michael was a man's man. He just wasn't tacky and trashy about it. Go listen to the lyrics to Break of Dawn, In the Closet, 2000 Watts, PYT. He was quite. No, Carla, I wasn't. I wasn't gonna bring up other people's situations. We talking about our good king of pop, Michael Jackson, but I was definitely thinking it. And um when I saw them together, unlike a lot of people, I didn't think it was fake. I always looked at Michael as he did things different because he didn't have a choice. You know, you have a boo, you want to go do brunch or you want to go to the movies or whatever, you could do that. Anybody who stands on stage for 2 minutes and people are just passing out, they can't just go out in public. They can't go do regular stuff like everybody else. Mm-mm. No, you're not going to be able to do that. Mm-mm. When he was in Europe and he was on tour, he had to be escorted by their armies because the fans literally were running him down. So, no, he couldn't. And all of his brothers have said it. Leave your girl with him and see what happens. Uh-huh. So there is that. And I really do believe that by the time he got to um Invincible, oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's not to say he wasn't panty snatching before then, but by the time he got to Invincible, oh yeah, because he was a whole different mood. He was a whole different mood by the time we got to Invincible. He, baby, you better know it. he was, he had a crush on B, he had a crush on Whitney. And it was very evident in how he looked at these women. Oh, yeah. Now, let me tell y'all something. When I talk to these parents of these kids that's on the unit and they start talking about their kids got a boyfriend or girlfriend, I tell them straight up and down, you can't compete where you don't compare. It's some things that them little girls and boys are doing to your son and daughter. They don't hear you. They don't see you. Oh, shit. Yeah. No, I think he genuinely had a crush, like, Beyonce is beautiful, of course. Now, Whitney, no, I think he really liked Whitney. And I think she might have liked him back, because the way they looked at each other, baby. And then, what other thing about him that be irking my last damn nerves is for black people to say that he don't love his own people. Have you ever looked at a Michael Jordan's video? Have you ever looked at the leading women in his videos? Now, I do think exactly. You better say that, Shelby. When everybody else was doing something different, I'm like, Ola Ray don't get blacker than black. Miss Classy Curl herself. Naomi Campbell. I mean, the list goes on. All the women in his videos, all of his starring women, Iman, all of the women starring in his videos, all black women. Eddie Griffin said that it was more than just the chemistry between him and Naomi. They got some behind the scenes footage of where Naomi couldn't keep her hands off of him because the director kept telling her to touch him, and he's really shy, and he was like, please don't do that. And she got to touching him in the right spot, and Eddie Griffith said when it was time to break, she went to his trailer, and they was in there for a minute. And when she came out, he said him and Richard Pryor was asking him, did you hit that? And he said Mike kept telling him, leave me alone. Even if I did, y'all wouldn't believe me. But he never answered them. He didn't say yes or no. They just was like, when she went in there, the hair was looking a little different. You know what, Carla? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You know what? If Michael was sitting here right now, he would just be beat red and just smiling with his hands over his face because I'm so embarrassed for him. My God, today. But I'm serious. Y'all think the way he thrust that pelvis and be rubbing his hand, and then somebody messed around and it's talking about Mike got PRINT and the videos to prove it. So I don't understand how people talk about Mike was not the ladies' man. Baby. Carla, you so disrespectful. We would never get invited to Neverland fooling with you. We would just never Mike would look at us and be like, not that group right there. That's what I'm trying to say to her. I never. Oh, that was your first time hearing the dworking? They would be the kings of dworking. Yes, they would be. Oh my God. Well, according to his lyrics in 2000 Watts and Break of Dawn, I don't think anybody who was seeing Mike had to worry about getting it in. It appears that it went down. Okay. Now he wasn't trashy and letting his business, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he did say when he was on the road, he sometimes had to share rooms with his brothers, and his brothers would be in the room shaboinking with him with his hands in his ears and the covers over his head. And hear his daddy in the room next to with another woman. So I'm certain that kind of molded his mindset on dating and women and sex and stuff. Carla, I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about you and your concern. Mm-hmm. You and Kevin can both go sit in the corner somewhere. Yeah, and that's one thing, Michael was extremely loyal and protective of his mother. Not to mention, they were devout Jehovah Witnesses. Now, I don't know what possessed Lisa Marie to tell the world that he was a virgin when they got married. Now, I can believe that Michael waited until, he casted his line. But he told us ourselves that Tatum O'Neal called him on the phone and told him what what she was gonna do. And Mike said he tried to be a big shot about it and go over there till he got there. It was like, so I know if Tatum got on the phone and told him what she was gonna do, it's some other people that was like, I ain't telling you a thing. You getting here and we getting ready. It's going down. It's going down. Yeah. Kevin, I'm not fooling with you. Baby. Mike was like, wait a minute, like you just doing too much. And then go listen to that song 2000 Watts. Apparently, somewhere between Tatum and Invincible, Mike got it together. You know, even Lisa Marie Presley's daughter said her mama has some issues. So there's that. Not 2000 Squats. I am sick of her. Let me tell y'all something. Knowing what I know now about Michael Jackson, if I could roll back time, baby, I'd have made a beeline to Cali. I'd have made a beeline to Kathy. Don't as old people say, if you said you heard. You heard what I said. Not a pack of Newports. Thank you, boss. Mike. Mike was all right. I think what he really wanted was somebody to settle down with, to be that special someone. Yep. Mike. Baby, let me tell you something. We saw how Mike was moving on that stage, okay? Mike was flexible. And him and that smile and biting that lip. Oh, and everybody that's ever hugged him say he smells so good. Ugh. Baby, and let's wait a minute. Let us first have a moment of appreciation for his hairstylist. Because whoever she is, honey, his hairstylist and his tailor for that trial. Well, Carla, let me tell you something. My ex was skinny, was tall and skinny. It might be true. Shelby, that hair, and those suits at that trial, we wasn't looking at nobody else. We was looking at him like, oh my. That's how you step out grown man style, huh? You ain't looking for your childhood now, are you? Because I don't see nothing childish about this situation right here. That hair was so, oh my God. That hair was so flat iron and bouncing and behaving. I bet you, I I don't even know who was doing who his. Well, you already know his wigs were custom made, so there's that. There's that. But the hair was and those suits tailored to perfection. He got the watch in the pocket. We got charm chains going across the vest. Blazer is impeccably tailored. The pants. He got on spats. Spats, y'all. He has on spats with his shoes, matching his suit. With an umbrella and glasses. My God, today. My two favorite looks were the all-white suit and that red. Red and yellow are his. Red, yellow, and white. Those are his colors. But that red, ooh, honey. He had that French braid down the back of his hair and them red leather pants and the matching jacket and shirt and blood on the dance floor. What are spats, Carla? It is back in the turn of the century, back in the 1900s, the 20s and 30s. Gentlemen used to wear colored cloth over the top of their boots or their shoes. If you Google spats, it'll show you what they are. But when you have a man who has a well-tailored suit and he has spats on with it, see, that lets you know Mike been on something different. Y'all got caught up in him running around in that red button down, them high water pants, and that fedora with them kids. The children have been put to bed. This grown folk business. Girl, all the time. All the time. He was if you have a chance, go look at his fashion spread he did with Vogue. Oh my God. Michael was a fashion icon. Michael was a fashion icon. He had them run around the house clothes that everybody was used to him being in. Them danced up penny loafers, white socks, high water black pants, that red button down, and that fedora. That was his run around Neverland outfit. Okay. That wasn't his going to town, handle business in the courtroom clothes. No, it was not. And that suit he wore on his first appearance following the trial at that We Are the World live performance, where his hair was shining and them just layered and silk pressed. He had on that sequin blazer and the matching tuxedo. Oh my God. Even when he dressed up like he was in medieval times. There's a picture in his foyer of him, but he did a photo shoot, but he also had a painting done of himself where he was dressed up like the King of England. He made that look good. Mike was not playing with nobody. He wasn't playing with nobody. And when they gave him one award at the Grammys, and it was basically a consolation award, because Off the Wall is by far his, oh my God, that album is still, it still bops. And they gave that man one Grammy for that. He went and got in that limo with Quincy Jones and said, I done had enough of this shit. Let's go to the studio. And commenced to putting together the best album. You know, something that is very insulting, and it's not even me, is when people say that so and so is better than Michael Jackson. Even Chris Brown said, do not compare him to Michael Jackson. Beyonce has said that. Several people have said, no, you can't do that. No, I can't. I'm going to be a whole lot of things, but you ain't finna put that one on me. I've learned a lot from him. These little old twit bots talking about some Taylor Swift is better than him and some... Who? Did you hear what I said? This man hopped out on stage and stood there for a solid 2 minutes, and people were passing out. He don't just fill up stadiums. You can't even see the stadium no more for all the people that's there. He had a concert with 500 million people watching simultaneously. That's including standing room only in the stadium. Everything in modern music and pop culture, his hands are all over it. How people premiere their music and make videos because of him. Michael Jackson has unborn fans. Now top that. It's a whole generation of fans that never even got to see him in a concert or nothing. They just watching TikToks. Like I said, the Karma Bus, it's making its world tour. And everybody that had a hand in what happened to Michael, that bus is coming to your town. Because his new fans, they not letting it go. I saw him when I was 10 years old. I saw him at the Triumph tour. I was a little girl still in San Antonio. And I think the screaming and crying thing is just what it is with them. Because I can remember when they opened the concert, it was Can You Feel It? And the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, it went black. And they had this big Jumbotron screen. And it was just like the video. The water came out on the screen and the person was doing the voiceover, and then the music started. And all 6 of them, no, it was 5 of them still. Yeah, because Jermaine was still solo. Came and jumped out on that stage. And I mean, they jammed it out. They jammed it out. And I was screaming and crying. And I remember on Saturday mornings getting up to watch the Jackson 5 cartoon. And I remember tuning in to watch the Jacksons show featuring the Jackson sisters. And every show they was on, the Sharon Sonny show, the Osmond show, Carol Burnett, Dinah Shore, Dick Cavett, Donna Hugh. Wherever they was at, we was tuned in to watch the Jackson 5. Back in the day, they really did. They used to perform at carnivals and rodeos. It wasn't nothing for you to see James Brown, Tina Turner. They used to come to them little sugar shacks in the country. That's when they was working the Chitlin circuit. Oh yeah, American Bandstand. You watched American Bandstand, then you watched Soul Train. You saw their cartoon in the morning though. And their little variety show was really good too. It wasn't too many black performing artists who had their own, either starring in their own show or headlining a show. There was Flip Wilson, the Jacksons, and Diane Carroll in Julia, a story about a single black mom who was a nurse. That's what we had. Oh yeah, there was Bill Cosby and Robert Sharp, their show. That was it. Then you had Good Times, The Jeffersons, What's Happening, That's My Mama. But they had their own show. Oh yeah, Sanford and Son. I forgot about that. Oh, Sanford and Son. That was something. But nonetheless, I had got off tangent. What I was saying is, I wrote this as an easy way to explain some things. So I hope for everybody who didn't know a lot of stuff that they now know, when those conversations come up, correct people. That's how you change a narrative. Correct them. Michael deserves that much. Because I always say, even in this country, we have royalty. He is part of that royalty. Well, Cosby came later, Carla. We were talking about the shows that were like in the 60s and the early 70s. He was part of the duo, him and Robert Sharp. But we have had several pronounced families, and the Jacksons definitely are at the top. And they definitely rub the others the wrong way. That's it. I Spy. Yes. Because, and I'm going to say this, I didn't necessarily agree with how Joseph Johnson handled that child. But what I can say is them white folks was very afraid of Joseph. And they didn't have access to his kids while he was in the picture. Now, I will give him that. Tommy Mottola and them wouldn't have been able to get access to Michael if Joseph was there. Now, I do know that for a fact. Because Joseph, you can go Google him. That's all I'm going to say. Like I said before, if Joseph was hanging out with people like Don King, that's a bad mother. Shut your mouth. Yes. So there's that. So to all of the mothers, who are online tonight, I hope you have a very blessed Mother's Day weekend. If nobody else tells you, being a mom is the most awesome job in the world. Well, thank you, Lecelia. And for those of us that have grown kids, Mother's Day is a little different for us. I guess our kids feel the same way we do about them and their birthdays. Thank you, Carolyn. Our kids get grown and we be like, your birthday is another day. And some of us, they do us the same way on Mother's Day. It's like, Mommy, what else do you want us to do? What else? What else can we buy you? Where else can we take you? And in my mind, I don't give a damn how many times you do it. I show up. What? Girl, thank you. But I'll figure out. But what I was going to say is, moms, even if you don't have plans this weekend, do a little something for yourself. If it's nothing else but lighting some candles and listening to some jazz, opening the windows and letting the breeze blow through, and reminding yourself of how amazing you are. It is not an easy task to be a mother. It is not an easy task at all. So, never mind the commercialism of it. Give yourself a little hand praise and pat on the back. Job well done. Oh, thank you, boss. I know, they crazy. They crazy. Yes, we are going to Cleveland, and next Thursday at 7:30 Eastern, they drop the schedule. So we will know the date of our reunion weekend. So there is that. I'm going to get off this horn and I'm going to put my scarf on my head and then say my prayers and lay it down. And everyone, again, have a wonderful weekend. Be safe out there. And don't let these people get to you. Narratives are everything. Oh, thank you, Boo Bear. You are more than welcome, Lucia. Thank you, Tara. So let's all stand on truth no matter what. Let's just commit to that. The Cleveland Browns are going to be phenomenal this year. Damn the Cleveland media. They don't know what they're talking about. They're going to be all right, though. So, go do great things this weekend, guys. As always, protect your peace and your mental health.